Good evening, everybody. I want to talk about astrology tonight. My name is Geordie. My website is dearspiritreiki.com. I am a Reiki teacher, energy healer, professional astrologer, a counselor, life coach, etc. Check out my website. But yeah, today's full moon in Taurus, and I'm really enjoying the vibe today. Nice, cozy, comfy, full moon in Taurus energy. Moon likes Taurus, and this is always, this full moon happens at this time of the year, and people are starting to really ease into the holiday mood, and Taurus makes us think about like what we want to buy, for one thing, because Taurus rules values and quality and what we want to have, and of course in the holidays we start to think about preparing for the holidays by buying food and buying gifts and connecting with family, and it's kind of traditional values come into play with the Taurus Earth sign, and but kind of overshadowing today's full moon is the 11/11 Mercury transit yesterday, which is very powerful and happened right in the middle of a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which creates a very deep and transformational review and reset process. And of course we know that normally during a Mercury retrograde things slow down a little bit and there could be delays in transportation and communication, but it's very different this time, not just because it's in Scorpio and it makes it more deeper and more transformational, but because yesterday on 11/11, November 11th, which is Veterans Day in the United States, and it was also a day in other countries when they celebrate, honor the veterans of the armed forces. We had a Mercury transit, which creates an exact conjunction of Mercury with the Sun. Now, Mercury transits are rare. I can't explain this. I'm not an astronomer. I can't explain this with the astronomical logic, but there's only 13 times a century when you can actually see Mercury transiting across the face of the Sun from the viewpoint of Earth. And so that happened yesterday, and there was a point at which it was like right in the kind of bullseye middle of the Sun, and it doesn't always hit that very central region of the Sun. Sometimes it transits on the lower half or the upper half, but so that makes it the most powerful Mercury transit of this century. There's only 13 in the century, so very interesting, very powerful. And when you have Mercury Sun Conjunction, the spiritual light of the Sun, the Sun is like the divine light of the Creator in astrology, and it's like in your natal chart that represents your inner spark of, the inner divine spark. It's the source of light within you. But of course, the Sun in the solar system is a source of light, and Mercury rules the mind, thinking, ideas, communication, networks, learning, accessing information. Rules anything that works as a network, like the internet or roads, and anything that's like the web, and that connects things. So when you have the Sun blasting light through the mind becomes enlightened. It becomes filled with light. And of course, the 11/11 code in New Age, pop psychology, Astro Psychology is an ascension code. It's a code that represents awakening, enlightenment, mind expansion, oneness, unity consciousness. And when since Mercury is about connectivity, we can feel how everything is intimately linked, and that's an enlightened state, to realize that the essences of everything are intimately linked in Grandma Spider's web. I like to use the shamanic power animal spider medicine to explain that. Spiders are actually meditation masters. You may not have known that, but because they're the way that they're structured is I have a spherical body with rays that go out in terms of their, they usually have 8 legs, but they are very cool animals. So we had the light download coming into the mind yesterday, 11:11, the unity consciousness. And it's very symbolic and very kind of in a very deeply archetypal way because it's also Veterans Day, and war is very dualistic, right? War is like a shadow dance where you have a bad guy that you're fighting. You think you're the good guy and you're fighting the bad guy, and the other side thinks they're the good guy and they're projecting their shadow on you. So it's this shadow dance, much like the very dysfunctional two-party system here in America and the federal government, which is, I'm really sick and tired of the BS. And so the good news is that brings in a big shot of unity consciousness into the planet. And of course we had meditations going on all over the world, and just anchoring in the unity consciousness energy into the planet. And of course, the more unity consciousness we have, the more that we see the divine in the other person, no matter, they could have been somebody that we thought was our enemy at one time, but we realize it's just another human being. We have like everything in common, and we both basically want the same things. We want to have a good life. Why don't we just work together and solve our problems rather than building weapons of mass destruction and blowing each other's heads off and creating massive trauma and homelessness and destroying the earth and all the absolute insanity that goes along with war. So, not that I don't think it's good to honor the veterans, of course. We should take good care of them, take very good care of them, because a lot of them are suffering, and a lot of them are committing suicide. So, and that's something that I'm able to do in my work as a healing touch practitioner working in social services in New York, is treat people with PTSD and with addiction problems and stuff like that, and be part of the solution. I really enjoy doing that. But back to the astrology. So yesterday we had an energy configuration astrologically where the mind really does get opened up, and we want to, and there's a whole energy of, in general, since the nodes have been in Cancer and Capricorn, it's a lot about like, how do we take care of ourselves? What is our relationship to sanctuary and the home and going within, and taking care of ourselves and others, and what kind of role do we want to play out in the world? So the whole Cancer Capricorn polarity, their opposite signs, is about the inner in the home and the outer out in the world. And a lot of us are going through a lot of kind of deep thinking, and especially now during the Scorpio Mercury retrograde, we're thinking about like how are we doing in terms of our self-care routines, and then the role that we play out in the world. Of course, that involves our career, our jobs, our work, our relationship to the community at large, and that's something that's getting processed a lot now that the nodes are in Cancer and Capricorn. And they're and you have, let me look at the chart here for the Mercury transit. You had the moon in Taurus yesterday, and Uranus conjunct the moon in Taurus, and that brings the new paradigm energy into how we're feeling about stuff. And with Taurus, it's what we value and what we want to have. So we're having this feeling of like, we want to have freedom, we want to have higher consciousness, and we want to bring that into our relationships. We want our relationships to be more comfortable, but in order to have that, we're also going through this thing where we're releasing anything that's stagnant or stuck in the relationship dynamic. And this is a time when, because of the energies that we're in right now, we want to have relationships that are really more transparent and honest and caring, and where both people are more empowered and stable. And that relates to the Cancer Capricorn energy and also the Uranus moon energy in Taurus. And because we also have Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn right close to the nodes, that becomes a long-term trend where we want to get stuff established through transformation. So it seems like two contradictory things, but they're working together now with the Plutonian transformation and transformation of old structures, which is Capricorn. They're both in Capricorn. And we want to get established in a more empowered position by releasing what doesn't work anymore. That's old paradigm structures. That's affecting our relationships and our work and the whole planet in a very deep way. And so we got a nice download of light through the sun into our minds yesterday to really free ourselves up in a way that, and now with the full moon in Taurus, we can ground that and integrate that, and Taurus helps us feel grounded and stable and comfortable. And our values are evolving now, and that's the theme with Pluto and Scorpio, which are very strong right now because the sun's in Scorpio, Mercury's in Scorpio, and Pluto rules Scorpio, and Pluto is in Capricorn. So anything that feels too rigid or too old or too structured for us, anything that repetitive patterns that are irritating us, this has to be released so that we can free ourselves up from the old so that we can get more comfortable into the new. And that's the theme that we had yesterday and today. That's the process that's happening right now, and that's what's happening in our relationships. There could be relationships that are breaking up. There could be relationships that want to transform and work through their stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones so the relationship can be enhanced and transform into a higher level. There could be stuff that's with the Uranus that brings kind of shocking revelations. So we may realize that people that we're involved with are not really what they were putting forth, and we could find out, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was. But that's happening in the relationships with because we have Mars and Libra right now, and so that's the deal. And we're really moving into the end of the year and into a new year that starts with a pair of eclipses that are very powerful, and that'll be happening right on Christmas. And actually around midnight at Christmas Day, we have the first eclipse. And there again, we have a lot of processing over like self-care in the home and sanctuary and our inner emotional life and the role that we play out in the world on the other end of the polarity and transformation around that. And so you have people that are thinking about moving to a new home or doing stuff in their homes to make it more comfortable, upgrading their self-care routines, and just bringing in new structures and new practices into their businesses and stuff. There's a lot of transformation happening in the business world and banking to bring in new paradigm, financial practices. This involves cryptocurrency and stuff like that, and the crashing of the old system. And the second eclipse is also very powerful, even though it's a partial eclipse. And this could involve like a big shift in Wall Street and banking because it's in New York. It happens there's a lot of planets in the 8th house and the 2nd house, and that could, that happens on January 10th. It's a partial eclipse, but the planets make it very, very powerful. And the eclipse happens on a Friday, but then on a Monday, you have a big conjunction in 22 degrees Capricorn with the sun. And let me look at the chart here. Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto on 22 degrees, and that's a sign of like a big kind of crash and burn and the rising of the phoenix from the ashes. So very cool stuff, very powerful energies going through the holidays into the new year. And 2020 is the changing of the guard, which climaxes in December 2020 with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And I'll be talking more about predictions for the new year in my next video. I just want to say goodnight. And now on this beautiful evening of the full moon in Taurus, thank you for listening. Check out my website, get on my mailing list.